Today we'll study how to be a super learner. I will start with the components of how to be super learner. Then I will go to the neuroscience, which is the science of the brain, to see if the brain allows every person to be super learner or not. Then we'll go to the technique. The main components of being super learner is retention. If you study something, you keep it in your brain. The second thing, knowledge mastery. This information you have studied, then you have to manage and master the knowledge. And efficiency. As far as you move and learn, you have to be very efficient in learning. I will start with the neuroscience of the brain. I am my background is engineering. I have been graduated as electrical engineer in 1986. In 2021, I started my master in neuroscience. And the reasons why I studied neuroscience is first, the question that who am I? Who is it in Quran? What's al-qalb, heart? What's the al-fuad? What's the subconscious? What's the unconscious? The learning, the coaching, teaching. I was lucky that I've been teaching others since I was 6 years old. I started with my mother. She told me, with every lesson you take in the school, it was my first class, come and explain to me. So I taught my mother how to read and write. Then it became my habit to teach, the people around me. Even when I start in all the classes, even in the university, even in the work, always I'm searching for people to help, either teaching, coaching. So I attended a course in how to memorize a Quran in 2 months. And it was mind-blowing for me. I couldn't understand what's the concept. Then this is why one of the main reasons, that these two reasons that made me go and do my master in neuroscience. And I will put all these results, inshallah, between your hands. This is my son Amr in the middle, my son Anas. Myself and my son Anas, we graduated from the university at the same time, the same ceremony. This is the paper that I made it. They call it a project, Neuroscience Emerging Theories on Human Intelligence and Consciousness, Examining the Gap Between Artificial Intelligence and the Human Intelligence. And this are the 32 references. What I've done here in my project, I studied all the theories, not in the mainstream of the neuroscience. And I found it much stronger than the mainstream ideas. And this is why, I've seen a lot of concepts that are opposed just because it talks about the dual nature of the human being. There is soul and body, because all the people working in the neuroscience, they believe in the Darwin theory and evolution. They don't accept any dual entities in the human being. So they think the human being is just chemistry and the biology, nothing else. Here the brain, logical brain in Quran Fuad. Emotional brain, it is the heart. It is the limbic system. Here, see? Here the heart. It's not the muscle in the chest. Because people, they change their heart by plastic pump for years and years, and their emotions do not change. So this is the heart. And this is the fuad. And this is, the survival brain, which is the brain stem. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Quran, إن السمع والبصر والفؤاد كل أولئك كان عنه مسؤولا, which means the fuad is a tool for knowledge. So in the brain is the new cortex, the new cortex. So this is the brain. Now, this photo or this image, I was inspired by Stephen Covey, but I changed it to match Islamic beliefs. In the core, it is the self, and like more than 20 scholars in Islam that are saying that the self is the soul. When it enters the body or the brain, it becomes self. When it goes out the body, return to be a soul again. So here, this is dimension of the, the spiritual. It is dimension, third dimension, as insan is upgrading his self to be more spiritual. So like they say in Arabic, tazkiyat al-nafs. So as person keep tazkiyat nafso, then he will be upgraded to be more spiritual. So the capacities, it is a spiritual capacity, the power to choose, and the principles. The people that believe in evolution, they deny the power to choose. But this is the basic component of the human being, the power to choose. And also we said this is the emotional brain, the limbic system, the body, and the logical brain is the neocortex. So this is the original Covey here is saying about this is the mind. We'll see what is the mind here. I'm talking about the logical brain, the self, but I didn't mention the mind. The next slide. The soul, upon entering the body, becomes self, depending on the body and bound by its limitation. The soul is, it's become limited by the brain. So it's restricted and limited by the capacities of the brain. But the soul itself has more power than the self or the mind. Self is the mind. Self is the same. It's the mind. And the mind, which is the self, is the referee who judge between the limbic system and the al-fu'ad, the neocortex. This is why a human being can decide if he wants to make emotional decision or logical decisions, because all the biases are in the self. And the self that loves and hates and do all the things, all the biases in the self. And it reflected, if want to engage in action, it go through the limbic system. If the self want to think and do high-level reasoning, it go through the neocortex. So the self that judges to use the neocortex or use the limbic system. All the biases, it is in the self, in the soul. This is why Allah Azza wa Jal saying, ناصية كاذبة خاطئة, because the mind mostly in the prefrontal. We'll see it now. So the mind, what is the mind has two states, one called default mode network and task positive network. And this is the prefrontal of the neocortex, and this is the hippocampus, and the cingulate cortex and amygdala. This whole is making the brain. So if somebody wants to make some angry actions, he will activate the amygdala. So sometimes if somebody program himself in being aggressive, he will be unconsciously storing actions or any input that will activate this aggression. But later on, if he changes his mind and he start to zaki himself and start to be not aggressive, he managing his anger, then he will program to control this prefrontal, to control the action, and do not let the amygdala hack the brain and take actions. This is why the prefrontal is connected to the limbic system. Here, the hippocampus is very important also, because hippocampus always tell you the context. For example, if you are in a zoo, you have seen lion, like 1 meter from you far, the amygdala will let you run. But here the hippocampus will tell you the context. Man, you are in a zoo. Why you are running? Oh, okay, I'll come back. So here, this is the action, this is the context. This will be always programmed to make action because it's very important for survival. You don't have time to think. You have to take action very quickly. Even there is a router, they called it hypothalamus. It is like the router of the brain. It sends the images to the neurocortex. At the same time, it sends it to the amygdala. This is why you take action before even realizing, before even understanding or the perception of what you have seen. For example, if you see a snake, you will run because the signal or the action potential of the signals went from the router here to the amygdala here, small portion here, in very short time, in like 0.1 millisecond. So you run. While you are running, you will think, oh, you take the context from the hippocampus, and you can analyze and see, okay, what I've seen is just a toy, it's a dummy. Then you stop. But because it is survival, you need to take action very quickly. Don't take chance. So this is all of these four parts. They make the mind, which is part of which that as we say as Muslims resides in this area. Here we have two modes: default mode network and task positive network. In the default mode, it's like a state of daydreaming. When you are in daydreaming state, relaxed. Here, when you are focused and you are doing the tasks. In this state, this is the creativity state. This is the task completion state. And this is why I've read a book when I was working for Motorola, for the founder of Motorola. The name of the book was The Idea of the Ideas. He was saying that if you want to create a new invention, a new product, make innovation, you work hard, you be in this mode, trying to analyze, do all things. Then after that, you go and start to relax and hearing like music or the sound of water, sound of rain. Get relaxed, get this state of daydreaming state. In this state, all the neurons get connected together. In this, you have the aha moment and you create new ideas. And this is how you can be creative on purpose. Just work hard, then relax, then the idea, your brain neurons will be connected together in this state, and then the idea will come. Then after that, you go and do the hard work. So if you want to be creative or you think creatively, you work here on the tasks, then you relax, then this default mode network, the idea will come, and the aha moment will come. Then you go and apply it on the task positive network. So this is in general. So self is the mind. Brain capacity. The brain has 86 billion neurons. Now the neurons has a structure. It's not, some of the studies of the mainstream that are saying that the brain is a complex network of 10 billion neurons, which is completely wrong. The brain is much complicated than that. Every 100,000 neuron compose one cortical column. And this cortical column is like computer. It's like the core in the CPU. So in the brain, we have like 150,000 core. And the neuron is not just simple circuit. It's not a transistor. It is another micro, if I want to call it, a micro column. Because there was a research, and I mentioned in my paper that I showed to you, that they tried to see to simulate the inputs of the neuron, and with the output, they found that it is equivalent to 5 layers of a neural network. It means like it's like a personal computer. So the neuron functionality needs a personal computer to do the same performance. So the brain is huge. The mainstream idea, they are saying that the brain is 10 to 15 operations per second. They are thinking and saying that the intelligence here in the synapses, the information is between the synapses. And this theory is weak. but still it is in the mainstream. Why it's weak? Because the paramecium is one cell creature, but still it mobilizes, it senses, it thinks, it found their food. So there is no other connection. It's one cell creature. So how come then there must be another place for the intelligence, not in the synapses? For me, the synapses is like the address bus of the computer, just the address where you find the data, and the data here in the nucleus of the neuron. And this, there was another theory between for two guys. Ben Rose, he's a professor, and he's a winner of Nobel Prize in physics. And another guy, biology guy, his name is Professor Hamarov. They come up with another theory, and they are saying, especially Hamarov, they are saying that the intelligence is in the nucleus, and in a part in the nucleus called the microtubules. And the memory size of the microtubules in each neuron is 10 to 11 bytes. 10 to 11 bytes. So it is like 100 gigabyte in every neuron. So this is, I believe in this, because the paramecium example. Paramecium has one cell, so there is no synapses. There is no neural system. All what it has is the microtubules in the nucleus. So I believe in these figures more than the figures of the synapse information processing theory. So the operations 10 to 27 operations per second. I think the supercomputers, I think Amr is 10 to 21 to 18. This is a supercomputer. The funny thing, you see the brain, it operates in 10 to 27 operations per second, while it consumes how much watt? 20 watt. While the supercomputer consumes like 2 megawatts. So it is 1 part million of the consumption of the super, and it is like more than billion speed advantage on the operations per second. So this is the column theory. It was published in 1978, and it became a kind of fact in neuroscience. It is a fact. There is a guy, Jeff Hawkins. This guy, he is a technology guy, and he was one of the pioneers in designing the palm systems and stuff like that before the iPhone. And he had a lot of startups, and he's a billionaire guy, but he left, he was astonished by neuroscience, and so he left the business of the technology and become, since 20 years, specialist as a neuroscientist. And he published this book, 1,000 Brains, a new theory of intelligence. And he made, he's saying that neurocortex builds thousands of independent models for every object and concept. You see here, let me move. Here, you see this is man through skin and retina, and he creates thousands, hundreds of models just for the cup. And all of this is saved in the brain. And you see, back again, to be close to the mic, you see here, the brain is like virtual reality. What the brain sees? The brain sees these signals only, pulses. It's called action potential. So the eye, the ear, the skin, everything just give these pulses. If it is high intensity, then the frequency of the pulses will increase only. So our brains are digital. Either we have pulse or we don't have pulse. And the brain makes all the things. We can create the images, the videos, the sounds, even the sounds. And the cochlea in the auditory system, in the cochlea, the mechanical voice change. It's like people in telecom will know that the frequency, the Fourier frequency analysis, it change. It analyze the sound in frequencies from 1 hertz to 20,000 hertz, and each neuron will carry just one frequency. Then the brain will take these pulses and collect it and create the sound. Even when we see the images and videos, the colors, for example, it is only wavelength in the life in the future. But the brain who creates the colors, there is nothing in nature. It's just only frequencies, wavelengths. Even when somebody, for example, have problem disc in his the lower part of his back, spinal cord, he will feel pain in his legs. The pain doesn't come from the leg, because the pain comes from the pressure in the spine. So it will pressure on the nerve that coming from the leg, but it is programmed in the brain. This neuron reflects a pain in this part of the body, which is the leg. So it happened with me once. I have in spinal cord in the upper part, I have problem. I have what they called it in Arabic, takallus. I don't know in English the word, Yes. Calcification. So one night I felt very strong pain here in my chest. I thought, it might be stroke or something like that. And I didn't sleep all the night. I said, okay, this kind of pain, if it is stroke or stroke, I don't know the word, I couldn't live all the night. Then I said, okay, maybe my back. Then I did a kind of physical يعني علاج فيزيائي. So I made for 2 hours, then all the pain went out. So it was not a pain. It was the pressure on my back on these nerves. I thought it reflected to me as the pain in my chest. It was not in my chest. Otherwise, I could have gone to the hospital and I made a lot of medical tests. But alhamdulillah, it was very simple, let's say, علاج. So, our brains is creating models, and our brain is always predicting the environment. This is why when you go everywhere, when you see any change, you will notice. Why? Because your brain is trying to predict. It's a predicting tool. So it will always compare between the model in your brain and any change in the brain. So it's a prediction tool and correction. When you learn, always you correct intentionally. So here, this is the kind of framing. This is why our brains learn very quickly from the visual aids, because it is the same way, even in the brain, even the abstract ideas, it is also put it in 3D frames in the brain. This is why it's much easier to absorb knowledge if it is visual or if it is a 3D, because it is the way our brain encode the information. It's in 3Ds. In the reference, that's XYZ. This is why I put this image. It's always in XYZ. This is why the visual is much easier for us to absorb knowledge than reading the text. Here, we are always how the signals transfer between two neurons. It's chemical neurotransmitters. The long-term memorization is creating channels, more channels. So when this, for example, this neuron become action, the potential action potential, then the neurotransmitters will move to the other neuron, memorizing the LTB, they call it LTB, is creating more protein that can channel the neurotransmitters inside the neuron to reach a potential that will fire the action potential in the second neuron. So this is the memory is protein. more protein will be created here, and this will enter more neurotransmitters, and as more molecules will enter here, then this neuron will fire. And they always say neurons fire together, work together. When neurons fire together, then means that they are making what they call in neuroscience pathway that do a function. Neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is the capacity of the brain to change its structure and function in response to experience, learning, and injury. For some people, they lose this because of stroke. They lose the capacity the ability to talk, but still they can sing. So they learn them to say the words like singing, and it will be use another part of the brain for singing. Then he will talk in singing way. Then after that, he will start to talk normally using another part, because the part is responsible for talking is defected for him by the stroke. So they learn him to use the singing part of the brain, and after a while, he will start to talk with the training and long time working on that. Then he will return back his ability to speak again. So the brain is plastic. You can change it. There are many levels of the changes. The molecular, as we said, the protein, stuff like that. The neural, when you are learning, the neurons start to make connections. And I've seen a video that the neurons, try to go up and touch each other so they can make the connection, they increase the synapses. So in the learning process, the brain starts to increase the connection as much, and you see it like moving like this way. The brain of the human being stay fully plastic till 26. Then after 26, it becomes less plastic. So you have to do it on purpose. Why it is less? After 26, human being try to be more focused, because this because every neuron has up to 30,000 connection dendrites. So this will create noise. So you see the young people, they have many ideas, conflicting ideas. Today he has an opinion, the next hour he has a second opinion, and so on, because of this neuroplasticity, a lot of connections. So after 26, start to the connection. I'm looking for the right word. It's, I think, in Arabic يعني like تقليم. I thought I put it here. Proning, I think. So you need more focus. So when you learn a new concept, you need to create more dendrites, more connection. When you want to master the skill, you need more focus. So then you cut the extra connections so you can be focused, more focused, not to be disturbed, not to be distracted. This is why. So when you want to you learn, you have to do it deliberately to increase the connection. So there is molecular, neural. Here the molecular, you have signaling pathways, as the signaling pathways, it's like a clustering of neurons. So you can making a cluster of the neurons to do a function. And protein synthesis, as I said in the channels. Then you have the neurogenesis. You create, or the brain creates new neurons. People thought before that the brain is fixed, doesn't change. It decay, but never grow. It's wrong belief. The people with the taxi drivers in London, they found them when they die. They found their hippocampus is much larger than the normal people. because the hippocampus is responsible for the geographical memory. And these guys work hard, very hard, to memorize all the streets of London. They have to get the license to be a taxi driver. They have to know all the streets of London. And they cannot reach this unless they grow their hippocampus. They increase the neurons. So every time you learn and you reach a pressure, it should be a pressure. You reach a stress like the muscles. You cannot grow your muscle unless your muscle about to fail or fail. The same for the brain. When you fail to do something, the brain said, okay, I need to grow here. The grow, either creating, growing new neurons or new connections or new proteins or the stuff like here. The molecular and neural dendrites, as I said, these connections, and the synapses. Within the dendrites, increase the synapses. Sometimes we have two synapses, but the distance between them do not allow the synapse. Then just they move a little bit closer, then they create a synapse. Sometimes there is the dendrites itself is not there, so it grows the dendrites, searching for another neurons, dendrites, so they can make connections. SubhanAllah, all this happen when you are trying to learn and you push yourself to the limit. You have to push I don't like the word go out from the comfort zone, but I think the more correct is to increase your comfort zone. How you increase your comfort? You'll be comfortable of being on the edge and making a mistake and embrace your mistake. Because if you are embrace your mistakes, that with the neuroplasticity will be more intelligent. So this is the process will make you physically more intelligent. Okay, so then molecular, neural, dendrites, and synaptic, all this happens to increase the intelligence. So it is physical. So the brain changes. And we said, the core of the human being, his identity is the self, which is the soul originally. So the soul is like a software, the operating system in the computer, but this is not only running the hardware, it fabricates the hardware. So your mind will fabricate your hardware. Imagine that you have a computer, you have an operating system, that this operating system fabricates the hardware, upgrade the hardware automatically. This is your brain. It operated and it fabricated. And this is why the brain is plastic and can be changed in either experience, learning, or injury. And it go in the positive, negative, in the positive side and in the negative side. If somebody believes that he is not good enough, he's not intelligent, he cannot do things, his brain will be configured and rewired to make him, even if he tried to do something, he will have like headache. Because his brain said, no, you cannot do that. Yeah. Whatever you say to your brain, it's like a servant. It will implement it. So it's in your mind, in your will, in your free will, to make your brain rewired to make you more intelligent or less intelligent. It's your decision. It's your choice. This is why we have people, a growth mindset, which is supported by the neuroscience and neuroplasticity. Why we need neuroscience? Philosophers and people and the prophets always told people that. But why are you wasted like 40 minutes talking about the neuroscience? To make people believe. Because our schooling system and university systems, education system, it's a fixed mindset. You have an IQ. If you are not intelligent, you will not make it. I've seen, in school, colleagues of mine, they've been fired from the school, they are genius. They start their own businesses, their workshop. They were doing a great job. But the system wouldn't allow them. For example, you remember when I talked about here, the default mode network, task, positive network. It's either or. It cannot operate together. Either you be here or here. If this is on, this is off. If this is off, this is on. But what happens if both on? If both on for a person, he will have ADHD. This is the ADG. Both the default mode network and the task positive network are both on at the same time. Then there will be a lot of ideas, a lot of activities. He never cannot rest. These people always always are not treated fairly in the schools, because the teachers and then their colleagues will get annoyed by them, and everybody irritated by them, so they get rid of them in the school. And most of the time they are very, very intelligent people. But because the school system doesn't allow a student to make a noise, he will be considered as the enemy of the educational process as a whole. This is why these people, they don't get to school, they don't get university degree, and they work in some manual works, but they are very intelligent. You can see it. Every person of us, maybe he can imagine one or two from this type of people, that they failed in the school because the school failed them, the system failed them. And this is why our education system is not fair, because they don't do these basic things. So I wanted to talk about it, but I forgot at some of the slides as I returned back to it. So here, these people said, this guy, we fired him from school. How he become intelligent? How he could get now? He went to America and now he has a PhD. He was the stupidest person in the class, because they believe fixed mindset. You are the scores you get, the IQ test that was performed to you, for it's fixed mindset. While in fact, in life, it's a growth mindset, and it's built in neuroscience, neuroplasticity. Fixed mindset is conditioned by environment. Every person of us, when he is born, I'll talk about it later in the other slides. So we'll keep it here. Fixed mindset and the growth mindset. So any person in this should migrate to here. He should believe that he can be more intelligent. He doesn't need to hide his mistakes. He doesn't need to pretend. He just work hard. Take himself to the edge, and the intelligence will come. I have a story about myself when I started to study neuroscience. It was in 21. At that time, I was 58 years old. And, I graduated in 1986. And when I took 2 classes with the same professor, one was molecular and cellular, one on neural biochemistry. And we have been given to do a paper to just summarize 2 papers in one paper. For it's like 5 to 10 pages, under one condition, that the plagiarism should be less than 10%. I stayed the whole semester trying to do it. I couldn't do it. Then the professor failed me and gave me F in both. And at that time, I made my mind to pass and to finish this program. The next semester, I used to finish the paper in 4 hours. Even I started to challenge myself. If I have to submit the paper at 12 p.m., I start at 8 p.m. And I used to submit the paper minutes just before the deadline. Because I put myself on the edge. I am like 36 years. I didn't make any research, any scientific research, academic research. This is why my brain was not working. Then clusters, complete pathways happened in my brain to the level I start to develop papers very quickly. Even when I did another master in economics, I wanted to understand why Turkish economy always suffering. And all the professors told me that no way, because we are Turkish people and we couldn't find. Then I could, alhamdulillah, make a paper, 20 pages, and I found the core problem of the Turkish economy. And this paper is published. If you search for Adel Tayeh, you will find it. So But the first semester, I spent 1 semester to write like 4 pages. 5 pages I couldn't, because my brain was not able. But when I put myself on the edge, I could do that. So this is personal experience. Here, this guy, all kids are born genius, but are crushed by society. Here, transform now. This is for you, all of you, and me. It's a transformation point. We have to transform to be super learners, even try to be genius. I'm sure for 1 year, if somebody make a very super learning program, he will turn to a genius. So your brain continues to grow as long as you live. So constantly expand your learning, master knowledge, and develop new habits that lead to success. This habits is what called emotional intelligence. What's emotional intelligence? It's creating the right habits to be successful with yourself, with your family, with people. So it's habits. Where is the habits are created? In your brain. The pathways in your brain. So it's the same. If you have a growth mindset, you know. Well, I remember once I was giving leadership courses in coaching in Jordan. I talked to a guy, he's owner of a company. I told him, you know, this program will help you to acquire a new success habits. Stop. Habits do not change. So this guy was and said, okay, please finish the call. And he finished the call because he thought that human cannot change their behaviors. And this is what we talked about before. These are the fixed mindset. They believe that they were born this way and they cannot change themselves. Although we, as a Muslims, you know how people change, you know, from after the da'wah of our Prophet Muhammad, the people have changed dramatically. So, but people tend to submit to the environment, to believe that they cannot change neither their intelligence nor their habits. So here, all kids are born genius, but are crushed by society. Every person of us should remember this when he deals with his kids and children, if he is students, if he is a teacher, or, you know, every activity of the kid might be a kind of research for him, exploring the environment. So people try to stop him, and sometimes using coercive force and just disabling this intelligence, this talents. And this, after a while, this child will submit to this environment and he will be conditioned. Then he will lose all of his intelligence. Knowledge sources. Here, the faith, I took this from the internet. The faith for us here is the divine revelation. This is the absolute source of the truth. And there is, for example, intuition, the philosophers. The philosophers, what the most or the nice definition of philosophy is the study of the questions that doesn't have clear-cut solutions. If you have clear-cut solutions or answers for questions, then it moves from being philosophy to be a science. This is why science is the mother of all sciences, because it was intuitive. But when you have clear-cut answers, then it becomes science and separated from philosophy. So the knowledge, either the senses, reasoning, the authority like tradition and culture. It's authority, maybe the regime, but normally the wide expression or the broad expression is the tradition and culture. And the intuition is philosophy. Then sense and reasoning go with these sciences, social sciences, empirical sciences. Where the math fits here, the math doesn't fit here. The math is the language of logic, patterns, and structure. So it is the language of sciences, the math. And it's more in this area. Knowledge management mastery, comprehension, application, integration. Comprehension, understand, infer, connect to new knowledge to existing knowledge, update your knowledge schema. Everything when you get knowledge, you have to connect it to the knowledge you have. As they say in computer database, you have a schema that connect relational database. Every piece of information, it is, and always they represent the relational database by schema, how tables are connected together. This is the way you build your knowledge. And if the time you are reading, inputting the data, inputting the information, understand, infer, and connect the data, this will stay. This is why people who use this method, they don't need to take notes. They don't need to take notes because all this connected in database. Everything goes to its location. It doesn't need. The people who take notes normally, they don't have the connection. They learn everything separate. But the best way is to encode the knowledge as you hear it or read it, by connected by the existing knowledge. Application, if you have build a project, write a book or an essay, solve real world problem, you think while reading or after reading, how I will use this knowledge. And this, it will become a habit of thoughts, a habit of thinking. You start to do it, anything you repeat it and make it as a habit, you will do it effortlessly and without thinking, like driving a car. When you learn how to drive a car, you have full focus in the pedals, the steerings, the mirrors. Then after that, you just drive. Because it becomes habit, and there is another part of the brain who's following that. It's not your conscious, it's not your prefrontal. Some parts in the basal ganglia and the middle of the brain, you don't take care of it. And here, if you learn and force yourself once, time after time, it will become a habit of thinking. So you will be do it without effort, without even thinking. It will become habit of thinking in you, habit of thoughts. Just it happens automatically. So somebody is saying about things, okay, no, but it does not make sense because this isn't this. Because all the information you are taking now is connected to the schema, the database that in your brain. Integration, creativity, hypothesis formation, and strategic thinking. So in which state of the mind you do this? Creativity, hypothesis formation, and strategic thinking? In the default mode network. When you are in the status of daydreaming, when you are relaxing, daydreaming. This is the best state for you to be creative, to create hypothesis, to form hypothesis. If you are doing research and you cannot find a hypothesis, just go and relax. This way, the idea will come because your brain will be connected. 86 billion neurons, x860 billion computer will be connected together in a network to solve your problem. Why you are not thinking about it? Just relaxing, just let this brain work, and will come up to you with the result. So creativity, habit formation, and strategic thinking. This is strategic thinking is not something that you are doing when you are in the focus state. What's meant by strategic thinking? Like, for example, seeing patterns, for example, in agriculture, you want maybe idea come to you to implement it in industrial or in computer or whatever. This patterns from different domains. How you understand the pattern here and apply it in other domain. This is strategic thinking. Or it's try to find or to predict the opportunities in the future and the problems and solve it. This is strategic thinking. So you don't do strategic thinking while you are focused or you are in work. You do strategic thinking while you are relaxing. Okay. Superlearning. Superlearning now, we have formatted our brains. We have upgraded our brains to accept superlearning. So here we have acquisition, input, comprehension, retention, application, integration, efficiency. This is a learning brain. Everything is connected. Superlearning dimension. This model. There is no model that with these details. There is very sophisticated or complex models. I selected this model. This is what I used to do myself, and just to try to enrich it by this references and materials. For example, acquisition and conversion, make it stick for this author. Retention, memory. This German, this is psychologist in 19th century who created the spaced repetition, according to the tables. I will show some of his research. Application integration, how people learn. This is a paper, not a book. And the neuroplasticity principle, the brain that changes itself, by this guy. So for people who want to verify the information, you can return back. Maybe you can expand the model for yourself or reduce it. But I found that this is the simplest model. Acquisition of information, you have the VARK model. Either you use a visual, auditory, read, write, and kinesthetic. This is through the touch. It's multisensory. For me, I love this too. I learn by visual and I don't, for example, I'm not fast in reading, especially in English. So this kind of audiobooks, it was a kind of relief for me, because especially in English, I'm not fast in reading English, but in Arabic, I'm fast. This is why I use a visual, and I remember when I studied the 8 Habits for Stephen Covey, I read it in 1 hour and made the presentation in 1 hour. 1 hour. Scanned the book, because they have Stephen Covey, his books is very well edited and has a lot of visual aids, so you can understand and learn the book without reading the text. This is why I love. There are some people who are famous. They are, bestseller authors. Their works are very well edited. That you have a lot of visual aids, so you can understand the book, but just reading the titles and the diagrams. It's enough. So this one, I wanted to do presentation for my colleagues, and I read it and read 10 slides presentation. Transformative 10 slides presentation in 1 hour, because it's a lot of visuals. All like maybe 500, 600 pages, but it's all explained by visuals. So you have to find your style, learning style. Do you like to read and write, and you are use the auditory, for example, like me, or visual? Sometimes, if you are preparing a program, you try to make it multisensory. You have to make something visual, and you make a kind of audio files and read, write, and you give examples to make them, use their touching, and so the information will come by 4 sensory inputs, so it will be strong. Memory recall, spaced repetition system, active recall practices, self-testing, memory techniques, storytelling, mnemonics. Storytelling, you make a story. You want to, for example, to memorize like 20 items, 30 items. You make a story of the items, and the story should be funny, so you can remember it. Or you can make a kind of images. You create images. And teaching others. If you teach others, you will keep the knowledge. I believe this is the best teaching, because this is stay more. If you teach somebody or more than person, more in several times, the information will be retained for a long period. Comprehension, understanding the meaning. How do I make sense of it explain try here in this technique, explain it for 10 years old and try to simplify the knowledge to 10 years old child. If you succeeded in explaining a complicated concept to 10 years old child, then you are very well understood the concept. Breaking down complex concepts, creating concepts maps and mentals. This is famous. These kinds of things, breaking down these two work together. Sometimes you feel it's very complicated. Whatever you do, it cannot simplify. So you break it down to 3 or 4 simple ideas. Then it's easy to connect them. So here, simplification and breaking down, working together, and creating concept maps and mental models. This is great because, as we said, our brain, store everything in frames, in 3D. So when you make images, the brain is easy for it to take this information and store it. So it's very important here. Connecting to existing knowledge, this is, as we said before, it is the schema. Every time I learn something, if I cannot connect it, I ask, what is this information? Why is this information? Then I forget about it. Then maybe next day, next week, my brain will come to me with the answer. Suddenly. This is while I am relaxing in the default mode network, the idea come to me. And sometimes this idea is, a breakthrough idea. Because when I couldn't connect it to any information I have, I start to connect, no, I couldn't find. Then I asked myself, why? Why it's mentioned here? Later on, maybe 1 week, the idea comes, and sometimes it's a breakthrough idea. Application. When you apply, either you build your project, prototype, solving real-world problems, simulating performance, practice exams, doing versus consuming. Some people they are consuming knowledge. They're not doing. I remember in the school there were a program for the best readers of the books. They were going to contests, and they celebrate the people who consume as much of the books, and they go there and they ask them questions, they answer the questions. As the number of books he reads or he will be, for example, given a reward or a trophy. So I remember the people in my school when we were in the elementary and secondary school, who were this kind of category of people. I found them they couldn't progress in their real life because they were consumer. They were not mastering the knowledge. Just they were consuming. So we have to stop consuming knowledge or books. We have to learn to do. As say in Arabic, علم أثمر عملا. عمل مفيد. It's the work that benefit. As Allah says in the Quran, أما ما ينفع الناس فيمكث في الأرض. What benefits people stays. This is why Allah Azza wa Jal بيقول اعملوا آل داود شكرا وقليل من عبادي الشكور. What's the thanking of Al Dawood, that Allah praised them for that? They were doing, all the talents that Allah gave them, they use it to benefit the people. And this is the top of shukr, thanking God. Because you thank God by your heart, by tongue, and by work. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give people talents so that this life will be, active. So if you take a talent and you go it to the maximum, then you made the maximum thinking for Allah. Then Allah give you this talent, this ni'mah, not for yourself alone. So you have to thank God by going to the maximum, to your maximum, to live in the edge of your capacity. So we have to stop consuming and start doing by our knowledge. Integration using analogies and metaphors, system thinkings, building second brain, studying mental models, all this, how to integrate. If I want to do the integration by one word, is apply the knowledge, integrate this knowledge with all different or for more knowledge domains. And for example, the guy who invented the post-it notes, he was engineer working for 3M, and he was in vacation in Africa, and he found a kind of insect that carries their food by making its food sticky. Take the food to the and then leave it. So he liked the idea, and he created the post-it notes, invented the post-it note. When he went to the CEO of LM and told him, I invented a post-it notes that stick but don't stick. And the CEO has no time, told him, what's a stupid idea? How do you want me to sell a stick that doesn't stick? And he refused. And for 1 year, who is coming to him back and forth and never accept to talk about the subject. Then this is the guy, he manufactured the post-it notes, and at the end of the year, he brought his report to him, and he put the post-it notes, the yellow, the orange, in the places that he want to explain for him. So after finishing the presentation and showed all the paper to his boss, said, who's doing that? This is a great invention. So this is, I am 1 year trying to convince you. This is the post-it note, the sticky papers that cannot stick. And it became, after that, they started to manufacture, it was the main stream of revenue for 3M. For example, he watched the insect, and he applied it to 3M, products. So here, integration is to apply or to integrate the knowledge in different knowledge domains. This is the bottom line. Efficiency. We need to increase efficiency. I have put this terminology it's mind terminology, so it's, you don't find it in the books, but I attended the program for التمرينات العقلية about to memorize Quran, and I was astonished by their way, and it was working. I tried it. I reached to memorize the page of Quran in 5 minutes. Then after that, it turned to be that it's a full time. I thought it is 2 hours per day, but it is. They are saying that it's 10 hours to memorize the Quran, but really it is 2 months. Every day, maybe 6 to 8 hours. So I couldn't reach the further, but inshallah I will do it later, because I understand the scientific basis of it. So I call it a progressive cognitive capacity enhancement. Depends on the neuroplasticity, and when you put your brain in the edge, I will explain it for you. Speed up all to be more efficient. You speed all the learning model steps, and this is, I will explain it. This is the survey questions, 3 R's. I will explain it in the next slide maybe. Other skills, the normal one, time blocking, the Pomodoro here. You have 2 things, time blocking and the Pomodoro concept. The Pomodoro concept is that you have to limit the task time. You have to put pressure on you. If you don't put the pressure, the task will expand. So you allocate time. This task, it takes 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Stick with the 10 minutes. Leave everything. Because if you don't stick to the time, to the constraints, it will expand. So this is why people procrastinate. People procrastinate there because the duration of the task will expand as much time you have. This is why you have to put time limitation. Focus, controlling the distractions, digital hygiene. There are some people saying that before you sleep, at least 1 hour, don't use any electronic device. And some people also I start to apply it myself. The first hour in the morning, I don't use the technology. I am doing deep work. I will explain the deep work later. Energy management, learning the peak of the times. And here also, it's not only learning. You have to know how to be focused in terms of sleep, from eat, from walking outside, exposed to sun, all of them. Because if you in the morning at the sun, when you Salat al-Fajr or sunrise, if you work like 15 minutes, and in Maghrib, in sunset, like walk 10 minutes in the sun, your circadian clock in the brain will be adjusted to sleep well in the right time. So there is here not only learning a big time, you can make your brain work for long hours. For example, if you depend on in fat, you don't eat carbohydrate and sugar, you will work like 6 to 9 hours without being tired. Because the cycle for glucose is 2 hours. It goes up, then suddenly goes down, so you have to go to eat and you feel exhausted. But if you're using the ketone diet, you work 8 hours without the problems. So it's not only energy management, it is body management to be focused and energized for the whole day. This is the flow state. When you I think I explained it. When you are in deep work and you are enjoying and you don't feel the time and you feel this work is rewarding to you by itself, not the result. In this state, you have high productivity. You product in 90 minutes more than maybe 1 or 2 days if you are not in this state. But there should be no distraction. When you enter this state, you enjoy what you do. And your work by itself would be your reward. Here, this model, it's very quick model for increasing the efficiency. Survey, question, read, recite, and review. I made the program in Harvard Business School. They used to give us like 3 to 5 cases per day. The cases, they range from 3 pages to 30 pages, and we have to come next day and discuss it with the professor. So I used to sleep at 3 a.m., 4 a.m., and without finishing the papers, the case studies. Then I went to the administration office, and they gave me a number of a person who was teaching effective reading. And this person, she was a lady. She told me, I am booked all the time. I cannot help you, but I can. If you have a case study beside you, I can teach you how to do it. Then I grabbed the one case study. I told her, yes. She told me, read the title, read the subtitles, look to the charts, understand the charts, answer the questions. It took from me like 5 minutes. And I said, that's it. Then I started to go to the gym, walk on the treadmill for 50 minutes or 45 minutes. I used to take my 3 case studies and finish it in 45 minutes while I am walking the treadmill. So this is very, very, especially, if it is for essays, for case studies, very effective way. So I reduced my time like maybe 6-8 hours to 1 hour with higher understanding and comprehension. I used to participate, answer questions, ask questions before I was not able. Just listening. So this method is excellent method. How all fits together? The learning, it's dynamic system, not linear path, acquisition, comprehension, retention, application. There is loopbacks always. It's not linear. You have to adjust and improve. You have to discover yourself and adjust everything according to your capacities. Efficiency surrounds the entire loop and optimize every stage. You have to optimize every stage for yourself. Now I give examples. For example, here the application is scanning and commenting on media. For example, if there is a lot of information, knowledge around you, and you want to comment about it, for example, efficiency, filter information and contribute insightful commentary. Acquisition, input, use a triangle system, scan headlines, images, This is as I told you before. And first sentence, judge the value. Filter information and contribute insightful commentary. This is part of the scanning. Acquisition, use the thread system, scan headline if you are reading, images, and if the most important thing in the scanning, I didn't mention it here, is, to qualify the sources of knowledge. You have to qualify, but the first stage. For example, if I know this newspaper or a news channel, they don't, they are not reliable. They give mistaken or misleading information. I don't use it. I don't waste my time on it. So the first step is to qualify your sources. Whatever the sources, if it is books, authors, news channels, papers, sites, websites, whatever, qualify. Always qualify. This should be in your mind all the time. This is your scanner always will work in very efficient time. You'll be spending minutes while people spend hours, maybe days. They can't reach the conclusion you reach in moments, because the first step, you qualified your sources. So you have the scan the headlines, the images, and the first sentence of the paragraph. But before that, qualify your sources. Comprehension, understand and define the core thesis. Ask what is the one key point being made. So what is the key point? If I want to describe this piece of knowledge in one point, what would be this point? Then you comprehend the concept, the basic concept. And retention, briefly summarize the piece, hold and in working memory long enough to comment. Because when we are in the TBN mode, we are using the prefrontal cortex. There is a working memory here. And this is not big size. You need to upgrade it by increasing the cognitive capacity. Otherwise, if keep it small, this part of working memory is responsible for our survival. We have, our environment. For example, I'm staying here. All of this, my environment around me is in the working memory. So if somebody is trying to overload it by discussing very sophisticated technical, I feel a threat. I feel my survival is in danger now. Why he's talking to me about very complicated issue, while I am completely engaged with other activity. So this is why people, when you talk to them in high scientific topic, they feel threatened because they want to keep the resources of their working memory for their survival. They cannot sacrifice it for to know something about very complex equations. This is why. To make it easy, you simplify it, you make it drawings so they can listen to you. Otherwise, the working memory is very important and survival resource. Briefly summarize the piece that hold it in working memory a long time, and simplify it as much as you can so you can hold it in your working memory. Application practice, comment with value. If you read something, you reach the core concept, you can make your comment, you can give an opinion. Integration, weave the knowledge from other domains to create unique, valuable insights. Yeah, always, the integration is apply this piece of knowledge in other domain knowledges. Efficiency, set strict time limits for scanning sessions. Don't scan forever. If you want to do, you heard about artificial intelligence. So I want to know about what is artificial intelligence and how it will help me in my job. So I have to do some scanning. So this scanning should be short, a little bit like, for example, 15 minutes. I try to scan all the information, 15 minutes. If it's okay, it's okay. Then maybe I'll have another session like 30 minutes. But always put a concentration on the time. So you can produce as much as possible in very short time. And you'll be efficient. This is the first application. Second application is reading and listening to books. Choose high quality books, qualify. For example, for me, when I want to read books, I don't know the authors and I am interested in topics, I am searching for the bestsellers. Then when I search the bestsellers, I found very or excellent authors. Then I start to buy their books. So you have to have a way to qualify the sources. First step, comprehensive. Use the Feynman techniques, to explain it for 10 years old kid. Retention, transform key takeaways to speed repetition system. They call it always spaced repetition. What is spaced repetition? That there some info you need to retrieve the information one day after you learned it, maybe then after 1 week, then after 1 month. So if you are learning something systematically, so you will have like 3-4 boxes. One box for 1 day retrieval, second box for 1 week, second box for 1 month, and fourth box for quarter retrieval. So you put the pieces of information that you want to daily in the daily. They want to retrieve it weekly in the weekly, and then in monthly. Then if you discover that in the monthly you start to forget, you take it to the monthly again. And if you feel that your memory is very solid, okay, and you put it in daily, then you move it to the weekly. So it's very dynamic. There are always loop backs. So this is the spaced repetition. Active look for connections, efficiency, listen during course, whatever. This seems very clear. I want to speed up, to make room for questions. Academic achievement, it is the same with some, because this lecture will be on YouTube and Facebook, so you will have time to read it. I want to go to a unique experience is memorizing Quran in 4 weeks. In 8 weeks, 2 months. I attended this course. It was mind-blowing for me. It was successful, it was real. But it is a kind of packaged marketing-wise. Because it's the time to memorize the Quran, it's not 10 hours, it is 2 months. And this is why I put it in this way. And not everybody participating could do it, because only the young, sometimes the blind people, because they have very high in neuroplasticity, they can do it. The rest of the people, they are allowed to do it again and again. Maybe they will take 4 months, 6 months, 8 months. Finally, they will reach. Eventually, they will reach. But I tried to put it. Maybe, inshallah, I'll explain it more. Maybe we can share it to Mena also, to if they have a kind of courses to help the children to memorize Quran. Maybe we can work on that, customize it and optimize it. But for example, if you want to memorize Quran in 2 months, you have to listen every day at least to 6 juz' from Quran. Every day. Yani you have to complete the Quran in 5 days. And you have also to apply the comprehension, you have to read tafsir. And to finish it, you choose the simple tafsir. So you can finish it every 10 days. So you are listening every 5 days. You complete the Quran, you read the tafsir. Every 10 days you finish it. So you are now acquiring the knowledge, and you are comprehending at the same time, and you are using the listening. Then retention, it will be spaced repetition. It's the same. You can put the pages in these boxes, the 1 day box, the 1 week box, the 1 month box, the 3 months box, and you can move the, if you complete the one every day, you read this number of pages, then you move it to the 1 week. Then if you are okay after 1 week, then you repeat it every month, then quarterly, so you control it. Here I put in, there is visual memorizing and auditory memorizing per page. I use these numbers because this is the what's the name, Amir? Fibonacci sequence. This is, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put it in everywhere in the creatures. For example, if you see the flowers, it's either have one or two or three or five or eight, شو معنى البتلة؟ ها؟ Petal. The number of petals per flowers, it obeys this rule. And this, if you see from 3, 5, 8, 13, it always increased by 60%. This is why I used it to start up the initial numbers. Then you optimize it. For example, if you want to read the Quran visually, you read it photographically, in fact. Let's go again to the brain as a virtual reality. Our eyes doesn't see, because our eyes see in the center of the retina, so it see only square. But the brain integrate all the picture the same. But at one moment we see just a small square. So when you learn to read visually, your brain read the squares. So you don't read the letter, you start to read the image of the letter. And as much you read this way, you train your mind, this square or the integration of the mind of this, let's say pixels, let's call it pixels, the integration of the pixels in the mind become faster and faster. So there are, so before you start to visually memorize Quran, you try to scan the whole Quran, try to see all the pages, try, to graphically read. But you will not be able. But in this, while you are doing that, it's as we said, you will create new synapses, new dendrites, this kind of thing. The brain will work hard to learn and to capture. It's difficult. You will not remember, but your brain will grow. So if you try, for example, reading Quran 5 times this way, it's a scanning Quran, then, the image of the page will be somehow stored in your brain, but you cannot retrieve it. But still, it is there. So, and there more connections will happen, more neuroplasticity will happen in your brain. So when you try to read the first page first time in 50 minutes, you want to memorize it. Okay, the next time you try to memorize the page in 34 minutes. When the next week you go to 20 minutes, then 13, then till you reach the 1 minute, but you are at the same time, you are listening, you are reading tafsir, so you are comprehending, you are scanning. So it is very complete, very complicated, integrated process. You increase your cognitive capacity dramatically because you are putting your brain on the edge. And if you're listening, try to memorize the page, for example, 13 times. Then when first week you memorize in 13 times, the next week 8 times. See, there's a jump because you want to put more pressure on your brain. So, more neurons will be developed and generated in your brain. And so on. So why when I mentioned that our brains can process up 27 operations per second, and can store up 27 bytes, because some people say, okay, I want to be nice to my brain because it cannot hold this information. As much you study, as much you become smarter and can get more information. It's like a muscle, if you use it, it will get bigger, stronger. Same for the brain. As much you learn, as much you memorize, as much you become able to get more information, more knowledge. For example, for myself, I found that, for example, when I read Quran, it's difficult if I do المد المنفصل. Then I start not to do the المنفصل. So I feel more, I can contemplate Quran if I do this. You have to find, to discover yourself, audit yourself, and find what's little tweaks you can do so you can contemplate Quran. Integrate Quran with hadith and fiqh and other things, When you study ayah for Quran, integrated, even Sirah, Hadith, even some rules that are fixed, but we see when you read Quran Tadabbur, you see it is contrary. to what people say, so you can start to learn, to research. If you contemplate in the first stage, efficiency is the progressive enhancement of cognitive capacity. This is what I start with. I finished. I'm open for any question. This is it's my email, my website, the websites are in use, not still, but it's not in full functioning. Yes.
I've got many questions, but I'm not going to monopolize it. I wanted to find out actually, is there a risk? Obviously, I had to write it down. I'm not like what you suggested. Is there a risk of a visual learner, to be conditioned by reality? What I mean by that is actually, look, people who are visually, most of the people nowadays are visual. They look at YouTube, they look at some TikTok, some presentation, and then they make the judgment, actually Muslim or this, or this is what's happening with the Muslim world, for example. Yeah, that's the visual part, so therefore the conditioning. So what I'm getting at is actually, look, shouldn't we be looking at linking the visual and the conceptual be linked together? To back it up, Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, he lived in at a time where around him people were worshipping idol. That's the reality, that's visually that he could see. But what he looked at the moon, he said, you must be God. But it sets. He looked at the sun, more powerful than the moon, and then he said, actually, you must be God, because you're stronger, but it sets. Then his rational thinking kicks in and say, look, surely you can't be God because you had a beginning and an end. Therefore, the God must be the one who created you, the sun and the moon. And then what he also did, a smart thing, he goes to the people, he destroyed all the asnam, and then he said, oh, the big guy did it. Yeah, visually, they say, oh, hang on a minute, we know visual and rational. Rationally, we know that he can't do it. Yeah. So what I'm getting at is actually, should there be a link between the two, the visual and the rational
of course.
part?
It's the comprehension. First acquisition is the first step to acquire the knowledge. So you have either visual, auditory, and read and write. So this is all, or by senses, by touching. So this is 4 types of getting the knowledge. So Ibrahim alayhi salam, he acquired the knowledge by seeing the eye, but he comprehended it's impossible this to be a God, because he connected all the knowledge he knows. How a God be a stone, cannot help himself? It's not. Maybe Ibrahim alayhi salam, when he said that, he just was making the argument for the people. So it's in the comprehension, where you connect this piece of information to your existing knowledge. This is why I called it a schema. So it doesn't fit. How come a God becomes so weak? So yeah, I agree with you. But this is the acquisition. When I say visual, auditory, read, write, touching, it's just only the input. Then we go to the processing, as you mentioned. Yeah.
How could you overcome addiction?
Addiction? Yeah, it's creating a neural pathways. Why people addict? There is a neurotransmitter called dopamine. They feel the rush of the dopamine in their bodies, so they motivated by the dopamine to do, because they have neural pathways. They tell them, they program them that if you do that, this action, this behavior, you will feel happy, you will be motivated. Yeah, because there will be a rush of dopamine in his brain. So how to create another pathways and make this pathways weak by different ways. The first way, to talk about the pain this will cause him. So it goes both top down or bottom up. Top down, by brain, by mind. What I am doing to myself, what I am doing to my family, why I am causing all this pain, what I am doing in this life, what's my legacy, what people will talk about me after 20 years. Then this is top down. The bottom up, you start to create a new new habits, good habits, healthy habits. But mostly it is a mind thing, top down, Then the brain will obey, will weaken the pathways that encourage him and motivate him to do addiction and go. I see this guy is. I remember a guy who was addicted. He authored a big author and a big coach. He authored a book called 10x. How you perform 10x what you are doing or the people what the people doing. He was addicted. His dad died while he was 10 years old. Then he couldn't find anyone to sponsor him. Then he found a mature guy, a man who sponsored him. It tended to be a dealer. So start to sell him the drugs, and he was an orphan, and start to buy the drugs, so become very addicted. And his mother was very hardworking woman, and once every time he said, okay, I will stop, he never stopped. Then this drug dealer brought to him two criminals, and they hit him to the level of death. And after he recovered, his mom told him, you are not anymore my son. I don't want to see you. And he loves his mother very much. So at this moment, he quit addiction. And he's become famous, billionaire famous, and he's telling and teaching people. Even I listened to his book maybe 1 month ago or less in Germany. I have been inspired. One of the most impacting books on me in the last 10 years. Yeah. So he was very addicted. He was about to die. So it is mental. See the pain. What pain will he cause to himself and to others? And what benefits he will miss if he stayed addicted? This is the most important thing.
Thank you. 2 years ago, I read a book called The Unlimited Memory. I can't raise my voice. Okay. I read a book called The Unlimited Memory by someone called Kevin Horsley. And in this, Kevin Horsley, he has won a lot of prizes in memorizing a lot of things. And my question is kind of related to my brother, who said the rational and the visual. So in his book, he was explaining many things. One of them, he talked about memorizing through visuals. And one of the examples, he talked about the 7 habits of Stephen Covey. And he explained it through a car, and then you have to put everything in the car, and then you try to memorize it this way. So my question is, does this work? Do you think that's kind of work?
Yeah.
If we use that?
Yeah. Because what you are doing, you are using existing pathways in your brain to attach new knowledge. It's working, of course. You have in your brain, for example, your room. And this is, by the way, used from the times of the Romans. So you know every piece of furniture in your room. So when you want to go to make a speech, said, okay, I will. The introduction will be my door. I will put in my door this such and such. The table I'll put in that this such, and you make a kind of imaginative image for it. You see all this hanged in the places in the room. So when you go out, you will imagine the door of the room, and you will start the introduction. You will go to the table, the other topic, and so on. Yeah, it works because you are using the existing pathway. You are not creating a new pathway. So it's easy and immediate. And we have big, huge, millions maybe number of pathways. So you are hanging on them. Yep.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
Jazakumullah khair for your beautiful speech.
Thank you.
I just wanted to ask, just to clarify, that you were saying when you are exercising your brain, just the way you exercise physically, whether it be, weightlifting or whatever, and it grows because you have to go through the pain and you have to go through past its limit. So just to clarify with the brain, that analogy as well. So when you use that analogy and you are doing that and you reach your limit, so what time do you recommend for the next day to go past it? So let's just say it takes me 5 minutes, and 5 minutes is too much for me now. And then the next day, I should increase it to 6 minutes and 7 minutes. Is that what you're trying to say?
You are talking about the time needed to heal your brain, for example, from...
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
the thing is, the brain is different. You need just only to sleep. Sometimes, if you study a topic very hard and you are pushing yourself, you feel you need a tap. I heard about people that they have photographic memory, that they can read the page like Shafi, for example, the page, and they memorize it. These people need to sleep after that. So he cannot comprehend unless he sleep, because the brain will work.
How many hours do you recommend to sleep?
As they recommend always, it means from 6 to 8 hours sleep, because you need to clean. There is a lot of stuff, there is glia cells in the brain, type of them. It's just, they are cleaning the brain. So if a person doesn't sleep enough time, his brain will be not clean. So maybe he has mental problem because of that. So sleep is needed. Sometimes you nap. If you are exposing yourself to a big amount of knowledge, you feel that you need to nap. It's for 10 minutes, 15 minutes.
Sorry, just one more question.
Yeah.
Like, for example, when I'm studying for an exam, it may take me 40 minutes or 45 minutes just going straight ahead for studying, but then I may feel tired after. So when I take a break, how long should that break be?
You need to customize it for yourself. Some people, they need to study 40 minutes and rest 20 minutes. Depends on you. Because other thing that you need little, not an optimized level of stress, so you can motivate it. So if we want to put the performance on the y-axis and the stress on the x-axis, your performance will increase with the stress to critical point. After the critical point, as more stress happens to you, your performance will decrease to reach zero. So this settings of the times, it's optimizing the stress. Said, okay, I need 40-20. It's good for me. I reward myself. I put stress of 40 minutes. Some people said, okay, I need 25 minutes. I put more pressure on me to finish this unit of studying. Then I will relax for 10 minutes. And I will reward myself by such and such. So here you manage your performance by managing the stress. So you optimize, you maximize your performance with the stress. So it's not unique for every person. Every person has to find, these settings.
Just quickly,
Yeah.
my name is Adel, and I was quite surprised from your model, the Superlearning model. And does it contain also the injured brain? Let's say a disability, or either a person who has suffered from a mental illness.
The common thing between the two is the neuroplasticity, but not covered. I'm covering learning only.
Only the learning.
Yes.
But do you think that can an injured brain?
Yeah, of
learn?
course. Because you can change your brain,
You can change it.
Yeah.
Okay.
your mind, yourself, your spirit.
Yeah.
It programs your brain and fabricate it. You can fabricate your brain.
Okay.
Imagine you have Windows that can change the hardware, can upgrade the memory for you,
Okay.
add more processors for you. It's operating system and it's fabricator. هيك Allah يعني سبحانه وتعالى, this is the way Allah created human beings.
Yeah, and the memory, is it the same thing?
The
It
same
can be
thing. The
exercised?
memory is 10 to 7 bytes. The human memory is more than any supercomputer. The problem is the retrieval. When you train your brain to retrieve and you create these pathways, they call it long-term attenuation, then you can recover information very quickly. But you have to put pressure on yourself, on your brain, so can the brain grow. Yes.
The children are born geniuses. Do you think that there's a connection to the that says
Yeah, I believe so. I believe this is, because when it is al-fitra, he has in his full capacity. Yeah, he lives in his full capacity. But when the people, the society or community try to, condition him, distort him, so he start to live by little of his brain, his intelligence, to make the people around him happy. Or sometimes by coercive force, he is convinced that you are not smart, you don't understand, you shouldn't ask. Sometimes very smart people, they are apprehended by big family members because they are asking very intelligent questions that they can answer. So the quick solution for them is to apprehend them. And this guy will be conditioned. He will accept that asking question is very bad.